Hello and welcome from me, Philip Nothard and Curtis Hutchinson to the special Motor Trade Radio podcast brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group. So many thanks again for joining us in the latest series of special interviews themed around sharing best practices as car retailers manage their way through the challenges presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. Previous interviews with Mitsubishi UK boss Rob Linley, Peugeot Managing Director David Peel, Virtue Motors Robert Forrester and many more are still available to stream on Apple and Google Podcasts and Spotify.
For this episode, we're delighted to welcome to the show Dale Wyatt, Director of Automobile at Suzuki GB. Welcome to the show, Dale.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
Welcome.
No, you're more than welcome, Dale. Great to have you with us today. By way of a quick recap of your career for the benefit of our listeners, you started in automotive at Volkswagen Group back in 1994 and held management roles across various brands over a 10-year period, from area sales manager to brand manager. And you also ran the VW Group's sponsored dealer program. You worked at Ridgeway Garage's Audi Oxford as head of business from 2004 to 2006, moved to Saab, the much missed Saab, I must add, from 2006 to 2007 as regional manager, and then you joined Suzuki in 2007 as dealer development manager before becoming sales and marketing director and then director of automobile. So under your leadership, the brand has consistently punched above its weight in terms of consumer satisfaction, as witnessed by high ratings in the annual JD Power and Driver Power surveys. And your dealers like the brand too, as it's always rated highly in the NFDA surveys. Last year, the brand sold 35,000 new cars in the UK, taking a 1.5% market share. And this year, Suzuki celebrates its 100th anniversary.
Some background there, Dale. Welcome. So welcome to the show, Dale. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I mean, over the years we've seen each other at conferences and little bumped into each other, but it's great to have you on the show at long last. And with everything else, we've obviously, what can you take us through from your perspective, sort of what happened following obviously the lockdown, which seems a long time ago now, on the 23rd of March, and some of the challenges for your brand in terms of Suzuki, in terms of that car brand in the lockdown, and how you maintained comms throughout the network, and how much of the network stayed open for after sales?
Big question there, Phil. I think it's about mindset to start with. So we decided to try and use the difficult times as an opportunity. I've always said you can measure a franchise partnership based on the way that brand partner behaves when things are tough. It's easy to be supportive when you've got a new product and lots of cash in your pocket, but when things are tough, you can really see what the partnership's like. So for me, the key message was to try and give the network certainty. So I sent a network letter out very early in the process, guys, that I called No Chink of Light, which was really about trying to give the network certainty around the things that were important to them right then. And the key priority was cash. So we took some early steps and pulled forward all of the dealer bonus payments as early as we could. We had a brainstorm and deferred as many franchise costs as we could and suspended many. And importantly, we worked closely with our partner, Suzuki Financial Services, to mirror the same approach. So I think the key thing was to give the network confidence around cash initially. And then it was about confidence. So I've always tried to stay really close to the dealer network. And I make a point of having two successful phone calls a day with every dealer in the franchise on a rota basis. So I continued with that. We had webinars, and then we just tried to not overload the dealers, but give them support by sharing government best practice on furlough and CBILS and offering the specialist finance support. And importantly, we encouraged the dealers to speak up. We didn't want anybody to get into difficulty and to stay quiet about it. So I think those were the actions we took. And in terms of your follow-up question with regards to the network staying open, most of our dealers closed. We had some dealers open for sales and after sales, looking after key workers, but most dealers found that trying to operate after sales only just wasn't viable. So most of our dealers closed and furloughed a number of staffs, and we had owner drivers running the business on their own, to be frank, guys, during that period.
Now, Dale, the lockdown came during the busiest week of the busiest month of the year. How did the fulfilment of March new plate orders actually pan out? And how is access to new stock looking now?
The March impact on deliveries wasn't significant, but the momentum that we lost was. The lockdown set us back circa 7,000 units. We didn't have any big challenge in the end of March. We've never been a large pre-reg business. And our stocking model is different. Suzuki certainly doesn't have a just-in-time model. We order our stock 6 months in advance with the factory. So we're in a good place with stock volume. We've got more stock than we planned. And this quarter, we're aiming at selling around about 10,000 units from a stock bank of 14,000 cars. And most of that product with us now, so we're well placed for a good month in September and maximise the quarter.
And you say you're in a good place with stock now. Is that because, back in tail end of last year or beginning of this year, when you were putting in place stocking for March, perhaps you were thinking of Brexit and possible supply problems, supply issues?
Yeah, we were planning two things. Obviously, looking at Brexit, but also we were planning a brand reset for our business. We had hoped to enter into Q3 with all of our old stock gone and a completely hybrid range from Q4. So we'd ordered all of our hybrid stock, and we were running out of our non-hybrid stock. So we had a duplication of stock that was unplanned because of the lockdown.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're now in August, and we know that the restart happened across sort of not all of the UK on the 1st of June, and I think many were looking at June as sort of the restart month. But I think with Wales coming on late and Scotland coming on late, it certainly didn't perform. But July looks to be performing. So how was the restart for Suzuki, and how did July perform?
Pretty well. The market stats are difficult to compare year on year, and they belie the truth. Last year we were battling with WLTP, derogation, and running out two of our popular models, Celerio and Bolero. But against our internal plan, we overperformed July by 500 units, so it was better than we expected. We identified 4 stages to prepare our dealers and prepare our business post-lockdown. So the first stage was lockdown. Then I was conscious that we'd all been working behind the scenes, working on strategy and plans. It'd been very easy to overload our network at the point when they were just trying to get back to work. So we created 4 stages lockdown, and the first stage we called back on your feet, which was just about trying to encourage the dealers to just get up and running and just cope with initial demand in a reactive way rather than a proactive way. So our stages were lockdown, back on your feet, and then up and running and sprinting to the line. And during July, we've encouraged the dealers to move from back on your feet to up and running in August. So for me, it's about phases and doing things steadily and moving from that reactive to that proactive activity. I think it's key that every dealer now gets their September plate change mindset, and the dealers start doing the things that they know work and know will reap rewards in the September period.
Dale, what role does used cars play within that? And maybe if you could take us through the role of used cars in the network, but both now as we go through that restart period and also into the future.
I will answer that question, Curtis, but I just thought of another point that I think I should mention with regards to getting dealers back on the feet. If you're happy for me to go backwards.
Of course. Yeah.
I was thinking, as a team, we were keen to support dealer stability, and the first thing we did was we decided to create a new TV ad, which was an 8-week TV burst of TV featuring our dealers, which we called Helping You Get Back on the Road.
Yeah.
So we wanted to create an advert that told the public and our dealers that we were open for business, and it was a message for both our dealer network and our customers. We thought that was key. And then we abandoned dealer targets and dealer standards and moved towards fixed margins and simple trading terms, just to try and give dealers the confidence to be able to start trading with certainty from day one. And then when we looked at offers, we introduced a 0% finance offer with nil deposit. And then we were concerned that a number of dealers were having trouble with test drives, and the customers may not be keen to do a test drive. So we introduced a 7-day return, which I think is unique in the industry. So we're saying to our customers that if you buy it and don't absolutely love it, you can return it for no quibble reason within 7 days. So I think we've tried to cover most of the angles.
And how do you think that's going, Dale? Sorry, I mean, I've seen the adverts. I think they're great. I really do, because, like you say, they are the dealers, aren't they? Those are the guys that are at the front, the sharp end, and those are the guys in the adverts. And I keep seeing them come up, and they're fantastic. How, this is about initiatives, and you say, you mentioned earlier on about that phased approach, and that there's a September mindset now that, basically without looking back, March was what it is. The quarter was what it is. There's, we need to think forward now and build that order bank. All these initiatives, how are they going? I mean, they must be really positively received by the dealer network. Are you getting much feedback from them?
Yeah, the feedback's been good. What I would say is that some people are still overcautious. I recently wrote to the network and reminded them that as a young boy, I used to surf. And our business is a bit like surfing in that we only get 2 waves a year. And and the next wave's coming, and I was always taught, if you want to catch a big wave, you've got to start paddling early. And I think some of our dealers are still kind of waiting for the wave rather than preparing for it. So we just need to make sure that we're up to speed.
Yeah. Now, Dale, as part of this restart, what role has used cars played, and what role will used car sales play in the future? As you've intimated, a lot of your dealers are owner managers, possibly running small sites, and used cars are an important part of the business.
Yeah, very much so. I've always thought of our business as a 4-legged stool. So you've got new retail, new fleet, used and after sales. And I think if you don't take care of one of the legs, the stool falls over, especially in these difficult times. So used car performance is one of the most variable areas in any franchise. My experience is that you can provide consultancy, support and education to a dealer around new cars, but used cars is an area that they take pride in. So we've tried to offer consultancy to support the dealers, and I think it's an area that there's an opportunity to improve. When I look at the stock turn and the average return on investment for used cars, it varies significantly from dealer to dealer. So I think there's a need to take on board common practice and to professionally look after used cars and just kind of throw off the shackles of that dealer mindset, which is around, I'll make some money out of this car no matter what I do, and hold on to it out of pride. So I think there are lots of used car performance management tools and lots of great consultants out there, and I think some of the dealers need to listen to the experts.
So in terms of, I mean, you mentioned earlier about, the challenges facing now in this, I hate to use it, but this new norm world that we are now in around this social distancing, the challenges of test drives and the initiatives that you put in place there around like the 7-day return, etc. But as we move forward, what role will online sales play in the future for Suzuki, and whereabouts are you now in that process?
Well, there's no doubt that online has moved on. I think we went into lockdown in March 2020, and it feels like we emerged in June 2022. It feels like we skipped forward a couple of years. But when I think about online, I think we should be agnostic about the purchase method. I think we need to try and find a way to blend physical and virtual. And online is a method to improve our funnel efficiency. And the key for me is how we work to deliver that seamless handover from digital to physical and vice versa. Because I think that handover from online to physical and vice versa is the key area. And we're encouraging every dealer to review what I call their digital disconnects. Now, a digital disconnect hasn't got to be a click to buy button. It could be a badly worded or badly created form. The big threat that I see, guys, is that we become a commodity. We need to find a way to humanize or personalize that online experience. So I'm not a fan of call centers or virtual showrooms. I want to find a way to connect the consumer with their local dealer, not virtual chat, but what I call virtual dealer. I think there's a way to introduce customers in a handover, either digitally or virtually, direct to a very enthusiastic local dealer who's very keen to meet your customer needs.
Yeah, so as you say, that agnostic approach, so that it is where that customer feels they want to do partial online, partial physical, and move between the two is key. Do you feel then?
I think so. I think we need to put the customer in charge, and we need to try and find a way to personalise that human experience, because digital can feel very soulless if you're not careful. When I think about the story that we've gone through, when I think about the businesses that are failing, most businesses are failing because of lack of cash or lack of a digital solution. So digital is key. But we've been looking at supporting our dealers for about 18 months, 2 years with digital, and the journey we've gone through has been remarkable. I remember initially it was just about making sure that every dealer realised there was a lead in their inbox, a digital lead in their inbox. Somebody had physically clicked a link on the website, inquired about a car, and then it was about getting dealers to respond. And then when we looked at the responses, we found there were grammatical errors and spelling mistakes in dealers' responses. And then the response became the key thing. We moved to trying to respond within an hour. And then it was about adding content. And I think now it's about personalising content and making it professional. So if you're a digital player, you've got to be fast, professional, with personalised content. Because I think customers can see through amateur content now and just are used to a much higher level of quality in terms of digital interaction. So the game never stops.
Now, you mentioned earlier, Dale, the impact that WLTP had on the brands last year and indeed the sector generally. The EU CAFE emissions legislations are among the challenges, the many challenges facing the sector as OEMs move to reduce their average fleet emissions across Europe. Can you explain the impact it's having on UK operations? Because I understand, that there's the exit from diesel, the discontinuation of the chimney model, which was very popular, and also how's the transition to hybrid and EV panning out for the brand?
Well, it's a huge impact. We've got these irresistible forces that are just that, irresistible legislation, new products to cope with legislation, change in buyer behaviour, and the internet, and we're forced into a position where manufacturers have to produce cars that some customers are just not ready for. And also we're having to delete some models that customers love. So I know the government are keen to encourage a huge shift. But it feels like the government is saying, cross that river, but I'm taking the bridge away.
Yeah.
I think we need to help us try and get to the other side. And we see hybrid as a stepping stone. All the research that I see says that most consumers are at least one or two car changes away from a full electric solution. So we've got non-electric cars as part of our portfolio for the next 5 to 10 years. Well, I think we're pretty well placed. I think having every model in our range as hybrid as standard in Q4 is a good stepping stone. I don't ignore electric, but I think the majority of our business will be internal combustion engine with hybrid for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and do you think that's resonating with your customer base? Are they looking at hybrid rather than EV at the moment?
Very much so. We're seeing a lot of people come in talking about hybrid. I think customers want to do their part, do their bit, but I think that the electric step is a big step, and there are lots of issues around range anxiety and pricing that not all customers are ready for. I think we are. I think there will be a tipping point, but I just don't think it's there yet.
And I mean, at the start, Curtis mentioned it. So you've got the 100th anniversary, and what does that mean for the brand and the dealers, and the long-term commitment from Suzuki in the UK, and especially after the recent headlines of last week around Mitsubishi recent announcement of their withdrawal from the European new car market.
The 100 years means it's 100 years since our incorporation, when we started making looms. The last time I was in Japan, Osamu Suzuki, who still is chairman and runs the company, talked about being reborn and talked about focusing on the next 100 years. So I'm pretty confident we've got a future. But my thoughts are with Mitsubishi dealers and Coke Car Company. Must be some difficult times for them, and I think there could be lots of other challenges ahead. From our perspective, I'm pretty pleased that we've demonstrated our commitment to meeting the needs by developing a fit for Europe product range. I think that's the key thing. And the hybrid solution is an expensive one, and it's one that we've applied across the whole of our range. So I'm pretty confident we'll be here for a year or so yet.
if not a bit longer, Dale.
Next 100 years, I think, Dale, is the...
And finally, Dale, what are your hopes and expectations for the brand itself and the sector generally in the short, medium and long term?
Well, from a brand perspective, I've always thought that our brand and our network deserved a 2% volume, 2% market share. So I think we'll get that when we deserve it. And I just don't think we deserve it just yet. I think we're going to go through 3 phases. We're going to go through transition, stability and growth. I think we need to plan those phases appropriately. The opportunity is huge, change is constant. I always remember being taught about a change model that started off with denial, then moved on to blame, and then to guilt, and then moved on to uninformed optimism, which is, I think, where we are a little bit now. I think we need to, the fact that we've had a good restart doesn't mean that we're out of the woods yet. I think we need to change our businesses and move towards meaningful change. And then when I look forward, what I'd like to achieve with Suzuki, I want to be number 1 in Europe. I know it's important to deliver a stable profit. We're the most advanced market in Europe, and the UK is one of the most advanced markets in the world, so we can still use our market as a test bed for future initiatives. I want to focus on customer care. And importantly, I know this is a bit hackneyed, but I want to have dealer relationships at the end of the industry. I think we're interdependent, and if we can keep that interdependent and keep that strong Suzuki dealer relationship, we can survive whatever comes around the corner.
Yeah, and as a follow-on to that, Dale, I gave a brief recap of your career, and you've been close to dealers throughout your career, and you've worked in dealerships as well. How important has that been to you as the leader of Suzuki in the UK?
I think really important. I mean, it starts that I like them, and I respect them. Having tried to be a dealer myself, I know how difficult it is. So I think that's important. The dealer is the physical embodiment of the brand. Whatever we say or do, whatever money we spend on advertising, or whatever we do with products, if we don't meet the customer in a way that supports that proposition, we've failed. So I think it's recognizing that you've got to put your ego to one side, and the dealer is king in the customer relationship. So if the dealer's king, you better look after them. So that's always been my approach.
No, I mean, just for me now, I mean, it's just obviously, I mean, just got to thank you personally for coming on today, Dale. And, I think really Curtis's recap at the start there in terms of that, the NFDA surveys, the results, and from feedback I get from the dealers that operate within the Suzuki brand, and they do resonate what you've just been talking to about, that relationship that you have with the dealer network. So it's testament to what you do and the vision that you've got for the UK dealer network. And I think for me, that goal of being number 1 in Europe and 2% market share with some of them initiatives and that staged approach and that digital proposition that you've been talking about. And we know that, short term, as you said right at the start, that there's been challenges for some of the dealer network around cash flow, and we know that it's been regularly talked about. But I think that for me, that vision that you've got, the sort of that, I think that approach to, as they say, waiting for that crest of the wave to come. You've got September. There's still challenges in there. I think you've said that clearly, that we're not out of the woods, are we? In any means, in terms of this short term, we're still a lot more to come in from the impact of COVID and some of the changes across Europe and the international markets.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's some interesting times ahead. I think we've gone through more change in the last year than most of us have experienced in our lives, but I think it's tested us. And it never stops being fun, does it, guys? It never stops challenging your thought process.
We're still here, aren't we? We're still here.
We are, yeah. Yeah, well, Dale, many thanks for joining us today. Really do appreciate you coming on. It's good to catch up with you again. And many thanks for sharing your experiences and observations at what is still an important time for car dealers across the UK. So thanks for that.
My pleasure. Good luck, everybody, in December.
Thanks very much. So that's all we have time for now. You've been listening to this special Motor Trade Radio podcast interview brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group. Many thanks to you for listening and supporting the podcast. Philip and I will be back with the industry headlines on Saturday, but do watch out for more special podcast interviews over the coming weeks. Until next time, stay safe and stay well.